Tropical storm Fung-wong, also known as Uwan in the Philippines, continues to strengthen just towards the north of Yap, towards the west of Guam here. And it is still expected to make that landfall in central Luzon, likely just right around Casiguran and Aurora province. But if you are in the Bicol region across Catanduanes, you also want to be watching this very closely. And even over towards Manila, could be looking at some fairly heavy rainfall. Now, at this time, you can go back to the satellite picture. You can see some pretty decent inflow towards the south, outflow aloft towards the north here. It's got this convection building in, and what absolutely looks like an eye trying to form up in that low level center here. A little bit of a closer look. There's Yap, by the way. They're currently being impacted by this, and it really has all the hallmarks for a strong typhoon here in the forecast. So here's a look at the official forecast from the Japan Meteorological Agency. Is showing it coming on shore as we go ahead through Sunday night into Monday morning there just near Casiguran, crossing over the Sierra Madre Mountains, the Cagayan Valley, the Cordillera Mountains, all going to be looking at just an extraordinary amount of heavy rainfall. And here's another look actually with that forecast. You can see that track nearing right in there. Now, we always pay attention to the center line. Of course, that's where the core of the storm is. And yes, it's a little bit further towards the north. And if you look at this alone and you're in the Bicol region, you might think, we're good. This is going to pass well towards our north. And I get that mistake in thinking that. But let's take a look at some of the guidance. And this is, for example, the ECMWF and the GFS, and they are both a little bit further towards the south, and also shows the extent of the wind field. So of course we pay attention to that low level center. That's really important because that outside of that is the core of that. At this point would be super typhoon strength winds, but typhoon strength winds still can extend well away from the center, as we've seen in Cebu City. Remember, northern Cebu Island is where you had the impacts directly from Kalmaegi, Tino. But Cebu took some serious flooding, and I think this could be something very, not the same situation, but for like Catanduanes, parts of the Bicol region, you're going to get the fringe of the storm, but consistent onshore flow, heavy rainfall, and tropical storm to possibly typhoon strength winds. Actually, I think Cebu City didn't even get typhoon strength winds in the last storm, but you saw the damage from it just due to the outskirts of this. So I just want to stress that. And then you look at the cone of air and see how it is a little bit, it edges north and south here via Pagasa. Best case scenario would be it going like this. But worst case is it edging south and even edging towards Manila, which is not off the table. But even if it goes on the exact track, which high confidence it is where it's headed, look at the tropical storm strength winds extending out from it via the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. North and south, they have this big wind field. This has an absolute massive wind field on it. So yeah, we always pay attention to the low level center, but just keep in mind there is just a whole girth with this storm system that is going to have those winds extending well away from the center. The Google DeepMind also continues to show that landfall right near Casiguran, but it does still have a little bit of a spread here. And as we see this make its way towards the west, I still wouldn't be surprised if it even shifts further towards the south. We see that every time with these storms, not just once or twice, almost every single time. Just something to keep in mind out here. All right, here's a look at one another guidance, and basically the ECMWF showing that wind field. Look at this. Look at the winds wrapping around Catanduanes. We'll be seeing typhoon strength winds by Sunday morning if this follows through. But then you even got the heavy rainfall throughout the day here on Sunday. And then it moves off towards the west with that landfall by Sunday night just near Casiguran, crossing over the Sierra Madre Mountains and then over the Cordillera Mountains and off towards the west. Now, whenever we say it crosses the mountains, a lot of people say, okay, that's going to squeeze out the rain. And the rain's going to fall heavy in the mountains. Yes, true. But the problem is when that rain gets up into the higher elevations, it has to go somewhere, right? And what's going to happen, it's going to run down the streams into those lower elevations. Let's take a closer look. This is the ECMWF, but we're going to show a closer look at the 5-day rainfall. I'll look a little bit numbers here. And you can see 200 to 300 millimeters along the east coast. Okay, that's the mountains. But then you see out here, just northern areas of the NCR, all these rivers, all this water is going to build up 100, 200 millimeters. it's going to have to flow somewhere. It goes into these rivers. Same thing off towards Pangasinan. Water level rises likely. And of course, the Cagayan River and the Magat River too. The water is going to fall up here. It's going to have to flow somewhere. And it goes into rivers. So even if you are out here in Apari and you're thinking, okay, storm's passing to myself, I'm golden. Not really, because what's going to happen is all this water is going to have to fall across the mountains here, just like that. Where does it go? It goes into the valley. And a day or two after the fact, it ends up in Apari. So, yes, the storm and the worst and the damaging winds all down here towards the south, but just remind you, and if you're in this area, you know what's up. You know what's about to happen. But just a reminder that the center line is important to follow. But there's always that broader range of impacts that could be had with this. So for much of this area, heavy rain, damaging winds potentially is a big wind field. And storm surge, I'm not so much worried about. I actually would be more worried about storm surge on the west coast for like Pangasinan and Manila Bay, as the winds wrap around from the west here. And that's actually just jump back over. And by the way, shout out to all our Patreon members, our Typhoon members who support this channel, our Super Typhoon, $6 or $10 a month. Every little bit helps. We actually have a tier for $2 a month too. If you want to help out. Now, I'm never going to put this stuff behind a paywall. It's always volunteer. But if you do want to help out the channel. All right, so here's a look at the winds here on this is Sunday morning. Of course, you got the core here, but look at the winds coming in from the north. That means a surge maybe in Pangasinan. And then as it moves further towards the west, we see here throughout the day on Sunday, the winds actually wrap around into Manila Bay as it crosses over Luzon here and moves off towards the west. And while I have this up, by the way, I do want to share a lot of talk about another storm after Uwan, and you can see the GFS does kind of show a low there, but if we just show the winds, it looks spooky. If you look at the rain, it's more of a broad kind of troughing, which is absolutely possible. There's this time of year, every 5 to 6 days, a low kicks up out here. Now, that's the GFS. The ECMWF doesn't really show much of anything, so you don't really have model confidence. It's one model, and a tropical wave is not out of the realm of possibility with all this convection further towards the east. But I think right now, let's concentrate with the storm at hand that is strengthening out here in the Philippine Sea. As always, though, I'm meteorologist Robert Speta, friends. Ooh, real quick, I do want to quickly mention Kalmaegi, after making that landfall in Vietnam earlier today. Serious impacts out there, some damaging winds. But, I mean, I've seen plenty of reports of some pretty significant damage there along the coastline, south of Da Nang, storm surge threats as well. And this is still going to be a big rainmaker there as it tracks over Vietnam, over Cambodia, and eventually moving into northern areas of Thailand. Actually could be looking at some pretty serious impacts with this as it heads off into that direction. So Kalmaegi is not over yet. I think that storm definitely would be retired when this is all said and done. I do kind of anticipate that just because of the impacts in Cebu, which deaths now up to 140 in the Philippines due to that storm system. And then, of course, we got another one right on its heels. So I'm going to do my best to keep you all posted on what's happening out here in the Western Pacific. If you notice, I have a second video here. I uploaded one, then I took it down, and I'm putting up the second one because the sound quality was absolutely horrid. So you got a twofer out of me today. I got a second video to try to keep you posted because the sound is just as important as everything else with this information. And if you don't like what you're hearing, you're going to click off of it. So a little bit extra time for me. Now I'm going to bed because I got a 2 a.m. wake-up call. Ugh. Anyways, I'm meteorologist Robert Speta. If you have any questions, let me know. And as always, stay safe out there.